Well, we had a problem back then. Remember Dr. Chase, who was our mechanical faculty member, great guy, Dr. Jerry Chase. He's now since passed on. But you want to talk about the example of a scholar and a gentleman, Dr. Jerry Chase.
I would agree.
Right? And he retired like my sophomore year. And then there was no mechanical instructor, nobody pushing that side of construction engineering. Plenty of people that were in buildings or highways and stuff, but no mechanical at all. There was no electrical at all either. And actually, that's actually how I got sucked into teaching again, is that years later, after I'd been out, and like in 2005, I saw Dr. Jaron, Chuck. I saw him at like a Boy Scout event with the kids. And I was like, Chuck, what's going on? We were talking about the program, and I was like, hey, have you guys got a mechanical faculty member there? And he's like, yeah, it's really hard to get somebody, and just don't find that. And everybody's in industry, and they're busy, and blah, blah. And I was like, well, you're always going to have just terrible numbers for it without a champion for it, without somebody to push it or have any industry experience in it or any contacts. You need to get somebody. I was like kind of reading the riot act on it. And he looks at me, he's like, so what are you doing? And I was like, 2005, I just got my PE license. Well, no, by a couple of years, got my PE license. I was in the consulting world down in Des Moines, designing kind of mostly large stuff, high rises, lab spaces, that kind of thing. And I'm like, but I was really unhappy where I was working. My wife had already given me the, you need a different job talk. Like
What's happened?
Yeah. Dale's had this. Yeah, Dale's had this conversation. Russ is like, I understand. Okay, there's a talk. Okay, we'll tell. Yeah,
if you're at the wrong employer, there's a talk.
Yeah, if you're at the wrong employer, there's a talk. And the talk is like, your job is interfering with home and family life. Like True story. Okay, we both had this talk. And my wife's like, you're unreliable. I can't count on you to be here. You're missing the kids' lives. You need to rethink what you're doing. And at that time, I was like, oh, what am I going to do that isn't the same crap different day? Like going to another consulting firm, it'd be the same shit. Okay?
Well, human nature at first starts off with she just doesn't understand.
Yeah.
And there's a back and forth and
You're funny. The back and forth. My wife, right? The back and forth was like, I'll see what I can do. And I'm like racking my brain and at the place I was working at, which I will not name, you had by that point I was a stockholder, but if you left, they could give you whatever they wanted for the value of your stock. It was a literal golden handcuff, right? I'm like, geez, if I go to another firm, I'm going to get nothing for my stock. You could leave. One way to leave and get full price for your stock was to get fired. And the way to get fired at that particular firm was to make mistakes. I just couldn't bring myself to do that, right? So what I tried was being a really belligerent employee. The type that are like, they're
strong-willed.
The type that would like question the management's authority in their decision-making skills, and I thought for sure that was going to get it done, but it didn't because they were so desperate. There was so much turnover. And you listened to the one on Monday, and what we talked about was when you're with a company, one of the best indicators for the health of a company that you may be interviewing with is looking at their turnover. How many people are they losing? Are they replenishing? Are they hiring a lot because they're growing, or are they hiring a lot because a lot of people are leaving? And this was at a time when a lot of people were leaving, and they couldn't afford to lose anybody. So I was belligerent as I could be, and I still couldn't get fired. I was like, oh gosh, this is
the other end of that spectrum as a hiring manager. One of the first things I look at when I'm looking at a stack of resumes, if somebody's got a decade of experience in the industry or whatever, my first stop is not who have they worked for, but how many years. What's their burn rate? If they're every 2 years they're moving on to something else, there's something unhealthy potentially. That's the first thing to look into.
Yeah,
with that individual is why are you jumping? And is there a good explanation, or is it just there's a personality issue there
Right.
potentially if
Right.
somebody's jumping constantly.
Uh,
But the employee looking at a company version of that is
Yep.
what's the turnover rate?
What's the turnover?
And that one's harder to get.
Oh,
get
it's
information,
it is
especially if
very
the company's
difficult.
got a lot of turnover.
They are
They don't
not
post
going to
that
tell.
on their-
They
don't
will.
post that on the website.
No, they will not.
And it would depend on where the level of turnover is. Is it senior management and they're just doing great and loving life, but the front line is hurting? That's where it's something to look at too.
That is very good point because it's what would your peers be going through?
Exactly.
You know, if senior management is leaving and they're like, "Well, I'm leaving because I've worked here for 40 years and it's just time for me to
Mhm.
kick back on the beach." That's good turnover. You know, but if it's people that are in that, "Oop, I just got my PE license and now I'm out of here." Because that is what a lot of people wait for. They wait till you get your PE license, you get that experience, and now you're like, free agency has its attraction. Okay, but so here's the problem. My wife's like, "Yeah, you need to make a job change," and I'm like, "Ugh, what's just gonna be same crap, different day?" So that's when Chuck says, "What are you doing?" You know, and I'm like, I don't know.
He uses your argument against you.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
mean,
he does. I'm like, "What am I doing?" You know, I'm like, "Well, you know." So I go to. He says, "Well, we got a class at that time. It was Connie 251, the plan reading on mechanical and electrical." He's like, "We need somebody to help with this class. It meets once a week and it meets at 3:00. And would you consider helping out with that? Just teaching once a week?" And I'm like, "Yeah, that sounds all right. That sounds all right." So I go into management, the place I was working at. And I said, "Hey, they want me to teach this class. Can I get out a little bit early on a Tuesday and do that?" And the office manager is like, let me check with the home office." Checks with the home office, comes back. "Yeah, that'd be actually pretty good for us. We able to increase our presence on Iowa State campus, maybe help with recruiting, right? Why don't you do that? Go ahead and do that." I'm like, "Okay, all right, awesome." So I go back up, meet with Chuck, and Chuck's like talking to me about like 3 different classes teaching. And I love Chuck. All of you, these two do not know. Do you know who Chuck Jaron is?
No, I don't.
Okay, all right. Great guy, longtime professor at Iowa State. He taught me when I was a student, and then, and he just retired a couple years ago. I mean, great guy. But sometimes it can take him a while to say something. Just like on and on and on. And like 45 minutes into this, I'm like, he is not talking about one class. Like this sounds like a lot bigger commitment, and I'm like, so I just cut to the chase. I'm like, "Chuck, are you offering me a job?" He looks at me and he goes, "Well, I think there's some potential. In a matter of speaking, we have the opportunity to get you on this and that." Yes. I'm offering you a job, And then he's like, "This is great." He's like, "Now, just let you know, it'll only be for a semester, guaranteed, right? You'd be part-time for 1 semester, and then we'd see if we could just keep going after that." And he goes, "And let me just warn you, the benefits are really good. The pay sucks." At least he was honest. He's like, "The pay sucks, but you can do all the consulting on the side that you want."
All of a sudden, clink, clink.
Yes, it's like the pieces are coming together. And I said, "Okay, I'll take it." And he looks at me, he goes, "Don't you want to know how much it pays?" And I'm like, "Well, you already told me it pays crap." He goes, "Don't you want to have this discussion with your wife? Because he knows Gina." I'm like, "Nope, she'll be happy." He goes, oh, okay. And it's only like 4 weeks till the semester starts. And you have to understand, Iowa State does not move very fast in their hiring procedures. It's hard to get a TA on in 4 weeks, much less a faculty member. It's like, "Well, we kind of got to have a job search, but we're going to write this so that you're the only person that could meet these qualifications. Who else is going to take this job in 4 weeks?" So I get hired and change careers totally unexpected, but sometimes it just works out. Now here 20 years later, I'm still doing it. Crazy thing.